Hey everyone, it's Sarah, the elder millennial.
And this is Bill, the infant boomer. Welcome to Strengths on Fire, the podcast for strengths enthusiasts who want to have fun while leveling up.
Get ready for a mix of powerful insights, unexpected stories, and plenty of laughs along the way. Hey Bill, you want to light these strengths on fire?
Sarah, let's light it up!
Well, Mr. Dippo, welcome to Strengths on Fire.
What is up, Sarah? How are you today? Where are you at today?
I'm feeling a little spicy today. I'm not going to lie. I don't know what it is. The air is cold and crisp here in Nebraska, and I'm just feeling a little fiery. I am. I don't know if it's because we have named our podcast listeners the arsonists, and I feel slightly like I'm going to be arrested at any moment. But wow, I feel spicy. How about you? How about you?
I'm feeling a little spicy myself today. No, I'm having a moment, right? I brought some fiery energy last night, floating around, and it continues with me today. So, yeah. But that's going to lead into. I have a question for you. As far as last night, I was alone, right?
Okay.
Hanging out at the house. My wife was staying with a friend who had a little surgery. And I came home and I just wanted to watch a movie. So the question is, Sarah, when you can watch a movie and you're all alone, what is it? Is it rom-com, thriller, action? Are you into the horror, the slasher? Okay. I don't know. Tell me, what is Sarah's preferred film genre?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. As a surprise to no one, I am a rom-com fan. I really want to watch a movie I've never seen before. I don't love rewatching movies. I don't have like a movie that I'm constantly watching on repeat, except for the holiday on Christmas, because I'm nothing if not a basic girl. However, so I'm going to pull up the Netflix, the HBO. I'm going to try to find a movie that is a rom-com. Now, if it is based on a book that I've previously read, I will want to watch it immediately the day it drops, because there's nothing I love more than reading a book and then watching a movie and criticizing the entire thing, just leaning full into haterade.
There's that spicy. There's the spicy today. Yeah.
So tell me your choice. What movie did you watch last night?
I tend to be more actiony, thriller, fun, or sometimes comedy if it's a good comedy. There are certain comedians that I know are very big that I'm not a fan of. So I tend to be pretty picky on the comedy side. Not to mention a name. I'm not dragging anyone here today.
Of course not.
I tend to be a thriller based, but every now and then I gotta watch a spooky movie.
A spooky movie.
How
spooky are we talking? Are we talking like ghosts? Are we talking like cut people up into little pieces and put them across the country? What are we doing?
A little, maybe a little both. I don't know. If it's a well done horror flick, right? Whether it's slashing up or makes you think a lot. But the thing is, my wife will not watch them. She cannot stand them.
Why?
She's out.
No, I'm not asking why she doesn't watch it. I'm asking, like, why would a person watch them? I totally relate to the wife.
Yeah. And I know, depending on when you're listening to this podcast, right? This Halloween has just passed, right? So I'm kind of in that I need a spooky movie to get the blood flowing kind of mode. So last night I watched Longlegs, which is a very recent, satanic FBI agent versus, devil likes.
Never even heard of it.
It's strange. Never. It's an odd movie. It's shot. Nicolas Cage is in it, but you would not recognize him. You would not recognize him. I know, right?
Okay.
And then, and he is the bad guy. He is the The
No
bad guy.
spoilers.
Yeah, nothing. He is the well. There's no spoiler there. You know that within the first 10 seconds. So,
Okay.
but spotting him is hard. So I thought that was movie was fine. Like I said, it's not. I didn't have to see it, but it was interesting. I was on it. So
Okay, so the other genre that you're just reminding me that I love is dystopian futures or disaster movies. Even like I think Dante's Peak. Do you remember Dante's Peak? It was like the volcano erupting. I think that was the
yeah.
first time I saw like a disaster movie and I was hooked. And they're usually terrible, but I want to watch them. I want to see what's going to happen 24 days later, whatever that movie is. Like, I want to know, what do we do when the world comes to the end? Are there zombies? Are there just disasters? Is all the electricity out? I love sort of role playing in my mind and seeing it in real time. What is going to happen?
Speaking of role play, were any of you into Superman? And I mean the original Superman, the great Christopher Reeve.
Chris Reeves.
No.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, loved
Yeah.
it.
Well,
Loved
Bill,
it.
this is for you and me, Sarah, back out before your time. So Christopher Reeve, for all Superman fans, is the quintessential Superman.
Yes.
And
Yes.
a recent documentary came out, a very moving documentary on called Superman, and it was about the life and times of Christopher Reeves, and it was about how he played the role, but then sadly he had a very severe accident and became paralyzed from the neck down. And it was about his journey of how he then made creating a better life for all quadriplegics his new mission in life. And it was so touching and moving. But anyway, I don't believe in horror movies. They're all a waste of time because we all feel worse after going to the movie. What I decided to do with all my buddies, I went with 5 buddies. We all got dressed up as Superman, and we were running around the streets of London in full Superman regalia, having the time of our lives.
What was this last night? Like, when did this happen?
Well, the movie came out further ago in America, but in the UK, this would have been about 3 weeks ago.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Seen it and loved it, and you're couldn't agree more that that is the quintessential Superman. There, everyone that has followed has been a letdown in some way, because once he does it right, Christopher Reeves was just amazing on it. And by the way, thank you for jumping in, Mark. What has happened is, and by the way, if I'm not mistaken, Dante's Peak, Pierce Brosnan, correct?
Oh, I think
Sarah?
so.
Right?
I mean, I don't remember. I was a child.
I'm putting an accent together there, right? I hear Pierce Brosnan and now, right? So I'm just making a point for those listeners that are quick on their feet, our arsonists that are checking in might have detected a small accent there. We are super excited today. We are jumping across the pond with in our coaching series to invite and bring on board Mark Edwards today. So, Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here, Bill, and great to be here with my compadre, my amiga, my partner in crime, my fellow troublemaker, Sarah Collins.
Oh, Mark, I love having a London boy on the show. Taylor Swift reference, check if you've been counting. Mark Edwards comes to us from the Strengths Explorer. He comes to us from London. We are so lucky. I had the great privilege of meeting Mark in Atlanta. Was that like 2 years ago now? At an Eat to Grow training. We sat right next to each other, not by design, but by force.
Not through choice.
Not through choice, but by force. Somebody sat us next to each other. And we got to spend 4 days learning about high-performing teams and facilitation through CliftonStrengths, and it was wonderful. So I was so excited to get Mark on, because Mark not only has a great strengths business and helping teams be high-performing, he's written 2 books. He has a TED Talk. This guy is out there. He's posting videos. He's talking to people. He's hearing the stories of the people of the world. And today we get to hear Mark Edwards' stories. So, Mark, I want you to tell our listeners, how'd you get here? give us a little bit of your story of what led you to creating this business and doing this work.
Okay, well, great to be here. My background very at the beginning was HR. Didn't really enjoy HR. Wasn't really a great fit for HR. The only bit of HR I did enjoy was the training and development bit. So that led to a career in training, learning. And then as I got more senior organizational development, organizational design. And then after about 10 years of working full time, I then started working as an interim. And basically that's where you're not a fully fledged consultant, but you'll go into a business for like 6 months, 8 months, 12 months and do a project and then move on. So I did that for about another 10, 15 years. And then the last few years, I've been a fully fledged consultant, basically helping companies and businesses develop their people. There was a weird phase before that, which I think we'll come on to, which is a totally off the corporate grid phase, but was very important to where I am today. Yeah. In fact, I should probably just say what the hell that was.
Yeah, okay, so we're all sitting here on the edge of our seats. Literally, you've left Bill and I speechless, which is hard to do, as all the listeners know. So tell us, what was the off-the-grid piece of this?
Well, one of my latter experiences, before the off-the-grid experience, I worked with London Business School, and I was a program director. And as such, I got to listen to some incredible world-class learning and leadership and organizational behavior thinking. And I was exposed to some amazing thinking around strengths. And I think, look, Gallup's great. It's not the only approach, right? So I got exposed to different philosophies and approaches about strengths. I then learned about my strengths very clearly. And then shortly after that, I got an opportunity to go to Mallorca, which is an island just off Spain. It's a Spanish island. And I was working on a three-way integration. And when that finished, I decided at this point in my life, at this age, that I just want to have a few years literally exploring my strengths and doing those things that I want to do because they really fulfill me. And I'm with no regard to anything practical like money, income, career. I just decided not to do any of that for a while. And essentially, I created a photo portrait book called Faces of Mallorca. I had no writing experience. I had no photography experience, but I truly leaned into my strengths in creating that project, that book, which I hope is really useful and empowering for people to hear, right? Because I'm not an expert on aperture speed and all of this sort of stuff or different writing styles, but I really led into my strength to create that. That book's been translated into 4 languages. It's been endorsed by the BBC, by CNN, by The Lonely Planet. And it led to me writing for The Lonely Planet, which outside of America is a big deal. It's kind of the world's go-to book, if you like, when you're going to a different location. Where should I go? What are the places? And I wrote about Spain, the province of Malaga. And then I did some travel show presenting. Then it led to me doing a photo project with 18 women, combining coaching and photography, resulting in a TEDx. But the point is, the common theme of all those experiences is that I lent into my strengths to do all that work. And then because I'd had such a powerful experience in that, I thought, why not create a strengths business? And because I really don't believe that we're just our jobs. I really do believe that we're the sum of our values, our strengths, etc. And so I really try to walk the talk in this work and get people to see their genius and apply that in different ways in and outside and around their jobs.
Wow. Yeah. What a path, what a road to, again, the Strengths Explorer, right? Something that if anyone wants to chime in and take a look, I assume the Strengths Explorer is the website as well, Mark?
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yeah, yes. The strengthsexplorer.com. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. So that's an amazing story and how you get there. Mark, would you touch on for a second and hit us with the strengths that you have. So our listeners, they'll be able to see them in the show notes. But while we're talking to you, I hear so much of your strengths in that path. Can you highlight your top 10 for us? Let our listeners know how they reach for you and how they got you to where you're at.
Well, should I do it in a straightforward British accent or an exciting American countdown?
I mean, I want you to do it in a British accent, but now I kind of want to hear your
that's
American
fine.
countdown.
Yeah. Wow. The
No,
options.
I'll do it straight. I'll do it straight. Okay.
All right.
Coming in at number 10, we've got the exciting ideation.
Oh, you're going backwards. Okay.
Yeah, well, give people a sense of suspense, right?
Oh, wow.
love
Okay.
it.
Yeah, we've never done this before.
Well, let's
I
just,
didn't know
shake it up a bit.
We had Casey Kasem on the show today. I love it. All right. Number 10. All right.
Ideation. Number 9, activator. Number 8, the ever popular relator. Number 7, the always welcomed but sometimes annoying positivity. Number 6, is he looking to the future? He sure is, with futuristic. Number 5, maximizer. Number 4, strategic. Number 3, not one of those again. Woo. Number 2, I can feel your pain, empathy. And number 1, communication.
Ooh,
Excellent.
look at those oranges just come on through strong. You're hitting
Look
us
at
with
that.
4 influencing themes, 3 relationship building themes, and 3 strategic thinking themes.
Wow. And it's not like that communication doesn't just show up, right, Mark? Congrats. I mean, there it is. From
Taking the
minute
wheel.
one, coming in and hitting us with Christopher Reeves and jumping all the way through an amazing life story. That communication is on fire for you, Mark, and it's fun to hear it, fun to see it. So thanks for that share. You touched on a couple of books you wrote. What can you? I'm really curious. Which of those themes do you think were most important getting the books off the ground?
Well, I think the main thing I'm really proud of is Faces of Mallorca. And just a quick bit of background. Essentially, the purpose of that book was to tell the authentic story of this island through its own people and their stories. So it's one of those places that has a certain stereotype of just a sun, sea, and sound location, of just, really wealthy expats go there, like Scandinavians, Germans, Brits. And that kind of really pissed me off, to be honest. I'm my co-writer, Steffi. I thought, who are the locals, right? There's millions of these locals, and you never hear about them. So I really wanted to tell the story of the island through their eyes. So the strengths which really played into that, and bear in mind, my Spanish was and is absolutely terrible. So it was really about empathy. And looking out, because I was both trying to listen to those people who spoke English, or even if they spoke Spanish, listen to some words. Steffi spoke fluent English and Spanish, fortunately. But I was trying to use my empathy to really look at people's body language, to really pay close attention to every single micro expression that was going on. And sometimes to such an extent that I would tap Steffi on the shoulder if it was in Spanish and say, when he said this word, he shuddered, and can you ask a follow-on question there? Because I know there's something going on there. And sometimes I would have to use empathy just to really connect with another person, right? Like there was the favorite person I interviewed was Geordie, who was a gay rights activist, and he said, like, I feel very shy and embarrassed dressing up and applying makeup in a very conservative society. And I said, well, maybe for this shoot, just do that, just do it. And so he applied the makeup, he applied this kind of ornate, feminine outfit, and then we went to this kind of gay bar, and there was some music, and I'm straight, but I know what it's like to not feel seen and heard. I know that feeling, and I just created this connection whereby he was dancing with me. We were like dancing together and shooting the pictures that would represent him and go into the book. So, I've with my photography as well. Also, I've photographed thousands of strangers, thousands of people. I just stopped on the street and tried to create an immediate connection with them, such that they would allow me to take their pictures. So I think empathy was really big, as was communication, and I think woo as well. And I think sometimes with strengths, it's the environment you're in that can bring that out more often. Now, I was in an environment that was away from home, outside of London. Nobody knew me, so I felt rather unleashed. I felt really
Mm.
shackles are off here, and I would
Yeah.
run up to people in my best Spanish and just say, "You look interesting. Do you want to be in my book?" Whereas here, you know, I wouldn't feel as liberated to do so, but I felt very playful, free, and open, just to kind of be outrageous with some of my requests.
Yeah.
So
Why
I
do you
think
think that was? What is it
what
about being like at home that makes you feel a little bit more in
I don't
line
I
and being
think
somewhere else makes you feel uncaged?
yeah, I don't know. I think it's a good question. I think there's a big backstory of me conforming.
Mm,
Conforming in my career, conforming to be a good HR person. I never really am an HR person, but to be sort of, you have to be quite serious to get on. I don't know how that got into my psyche. So a lot of my career, I've been relatively kind of serious and straightforward and rather boring, you know.
mm-hmm.
And it's only in recent years I've felt fairly unshackled. But the saving grace was whenever I went away, that all disappeared, and I felt I could really be me. And
Wow.
hopefully, I am more me now. But those periods away, I lived in Israel, Brazil, South Africa. They were all experiences where I could be more myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I heard you say woo as one of the things that opened that up. And I love hearing from other coaches that are really strengths aware and
Mm.
know how those play out for themselves and they think in others because as a coach myself and been doing this for years, most frequently,
Sorry.
and Sarah's only a part-time podcast
Should
host.
we just pause? Should we just pause and take in the immense awkwardness of
Wow.
Sarah Collins,
First time.
professional podcaster, allowing her
Yikes.
phone to go off? Like,
I
it
was
was
Oh.
unbelievable.
so good.
Oh,
Mark, hey Mark, you wanna be a podcast host? We'll just swap out. We'll
yeah.
have hey, no,
Oh yeah, everyone we're gonna listen to your
so
voices.
good,
Blah blah
so good.
blah.
So where I was going with that is, when I asked you the question, what was the theme? What was that? As a coach, I had woo in my mind. I thought, oh, he's got to go to woo here, right? And how amazing and how frequent it is when I'm with clients, but now also with other coaches. You went in a totally different direction. Like empathy, hey, I had to feel it, but to get in and to communicate, empathy would have been the least of those. And you led there, right? You went to it
Yeah.
and hearing it through your experience and seeing it through your eyes and that amazing story of getting someone to open up and be on the dance floor and take those photos like that and seeing them in there, it's pure empathy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And hearing it and it's so rewarding to I'm always surprised when clients, I'll ask them, which of the themes do you think is causing this feeling or reaction in you? And of course I always tend to have one in mind. Usually I'm wrong. That's fine. I want them
Mm-hmm.
to go where they go. And hearing it from another coach today, really, really gratifying to hear how you approach that through empathy and how that worked.
I'm pleased to hear. And I think what I'd like your listeners to hear is that we're not limited to these Gallup strengths. So one of the things I'm aware of is I have a certain degree of humor, and I like to use that quite a lot. That sort of
Mm-hmm.
that British dry humor because it can really break some ice.
Yeah.
So I use that a lot and you can't really call that exactly verbal communication. So I just try to use that a lot as well in my breaking things down and creating a nice sense of things and in my coaching. Um, yeah, just try to bring more of myself in.
Yeah. I like how you point that out because there are other skill sets that we have that don't necessarily align with like a
Yeah,
strength.
yeah.
Humor. I even think of like physical things, right? Like who's going to be
Mm,
good at basketball or who's like good at pickleball or music or art.
Mm,
Those are different types of skill sets and
yeah.
talents even. And that's
Mm,
just almost like a different bucket than these
mm,
innate talents that Clifton Strengths help us identify. And I think it's important to point that out because sometimes I think people think, oh, well, if I want to be, an artist, what strengths should I have? And it's like, well, it doesn't really work that way because there are artists with tons of strategic thinking themes, and
mm,
there are artists with tons of relationship building themes. It's not about what you do, just like your job, whether you want to be an accountant or a lawyer or a customer service representative, you can have any mix of strengths and do those jobs. It's about leaning into your talents to do the thing that you want to do. So we're
yeah.
just like multi-dimensional people. We don't just live in like the vacuum of 34 Clifton strengths.
Yeah, and you've probably covered this on another podcast, but often what I
Well, if
say
you
to
listen to him, you
folks,
would know.
well,
She is spicy.
I
Mark,
told
what's
you, I'm
man,
sorry. I'm sorry. I
man.
feel
what's
too
well,
comfortable
look,
with
I
Mark
think,
here. I'm just ripping
well,
on everybody today.
Woo.
so
Mark, I got it. I got it pre-show from her too, so you're okay. It's she's having a
as
day.
as I was saying, Bill, um, I think we shouldn't be limited by these 34. So great questions to ask of people is what do you love to do? What do you really love to do? Or like when when we ask on a Monday, how was your weekend? Really, really listen. And what is it do you think about the activities that people describe that give you some sort of a clue in terms of what they love to be doing? Other questions is talk me through your career to date and what were some of the highlights? And really listening out for work for sometimes when I'm describing, for example, my photography work, my face will light up. So just
Hmm.
seeing the visual cues as well, in terms of what really lights people up, are good things to, aside from the structured questionnaire, to find out what lights people up.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. I was just coaching a client yesterday, actually, and we were talking about her work experience and her job, and it was very like, da 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 da. It was a good conversation, but it wasn't like great. And I asked her, of all the things you do, what are the three things you do best? And I'm like, you don't have to
Mm,
use strengths language. Just what are the three
mm,
things you're the best at? And she said music, which she had a lot of music experience in her career. And then she said adventuring. And I was like, tell me more. Like, what do you mean when you say adventuring? She started talking about this road trip where her and her boyfriend stopped at all these national parks and were climbing these mountains. And she looked like a different person. Her
mm.
entire demeanor changed. She lit up. She was glowing. And I pointed it out. I'm like, do you realize that when you talk about this, you're like lit up? It looks like you've just like switched the on switch and you're like, hey, here I am. I'm alive and I'm active. And it's so cool to see when people light up in that way when they get to talk about things. And like, what a missed opportunity. Had I not asked her that, I never would have gotten to see that side of her.
Well, I'm working with a team in the US, and the next time I go out, we're going to do an exercise that I've created called Outside In. And what people are going to do, because so many of these folks have shared with me and with each other what they're up to as side hustles or side passions and things outside of work, what they're up to outside of work, and what they love about that. And we're going to go one by one and one, and then we're going to see, well, okay, what do you love about that? And we're trying to kind of unpick in a gentle way, what's that strength? And then we'll be able to, with those individuals or with their managers, to think, when they mentioned X and that was the strength Y, how could that possibly be brought into this role? Because sometimes we think too linearly, we go on previous experience too much, and then but we're unaware that that person also has that TV production company, or that other person's also got a yoga business. And so we've got more intel about them available to us.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Really, really well said. Yeah. And like you, Sarah, I was coaching a single individual 2 days ago and just was asking her, about a specific thing, a theme we were coaching on and some other aspects. And she highlighted three people in her life she was working with. And personal life, her boss, and me. And she would, as she was talking about them, she'd light up on all of them because she knew what the answers were. Hearing the theme come into play and then actually stepping in and knowing what that road forward meant so much to her, that's when she lit up, right? She was really, really anxious to go there and have a plan and a way to move forward and talk. Mark, in your case, I want to touch on your second book for a second. So it would strike me your first book sounds like it was just an open page, right? I got photography. I'm going to put in words. This is going to be it's really a blank canvas, and I can just roll with it. The second book, a travel book, sounds. There's a format to that, right? You're in with a group. It's regimented. There is a we got to do this and this has to happen and this is how we do the formatting and this is the writing. So they sound like two completely different writing styles, and yet it sounds like you've done really well with both of them. So I'm curious how how you fall into that more rigid timeline and or structure of the second book and what themes come to play for that.
Well, that's a really astute point and a really astute question. What I enjoyed about that experience was first of all, the prestige and the honor, right? I mean, first, you're highlighting to thousands and thousands of readers places they should go. Like that's unbelievable. And that gave me a huge amount of joy. And then there was the process of actually how I picked, these places. So I met a bloke in a bar and he started telling me about this festival that takes place once a year. And in this specific place, they have art and artists are invited to come in this white city, they call it, where all the houses are white. And these installations, if they win the competition, they stay there permanently. And I thought, well, that's bloody interesting. So I went there and had an amazing experience, and that's now in the book. And that from having a conversation with that bloke, using my communication, my empathy, and my woo, right, was very, very cool. Now, the actual structuring of it and adhering to a format was difficult. That was difficult for me because that called upon a lot of discipline and just structure and things I'm not really naturally blessed with. So that part took a huge amount of you see my voice dropping and my excitement levels going right down. So I had to muster all sorts of creative things there. I just gave myself immense time limits. I said to my partner, hey, why don't you come over and join me? And she kind of was partly locked in an apartment with me, just making sure I'd just grind out the words. So that was difficult, adhering to a strict format and template, I must admit.
Yeah, and I would love for you to expand on this more because it's clear you have immense talent with people, right? You've got those 4 influencing themes, 3 relationship building, and then 3 strategic, but you don't have any executing themes in your top 10. Now that doesn't mean you don't execute. Of course you do. But as I hear you saying, like this was a hard thing to get that done in the way they wanted it to be done. So tell us more. How do you, as a coach, as a business person, with someone under deadlines for these things, how do you get yourself to get things done when you're primarily driven through people?
Well, I mean, I think you can be unashamedly proud, Sarah, that we had a chat. We had a little side chat a few weeks ago where I shared this very problem with you, and
Oh, you
given
mean
that
I just like unintentionally set it up? Oh wow, we're
yeah, so Sarah,
Wow.
was was skillfully coaching me that I should, and of course this makes complete sense, use others to help me, achieve the milestones and be structured, etc. And that's what I try and do as much as possible. I'll get things to a certain point, and I'll invite others in with that strength. And there are individuals I can think of now where I'll say, "What do you think? What would you add?" But it has to feel exciting to me. It has to feel like we're writing a screenplay almost. That
yeah.
not like a report or a boring pitch.
Mm-hmm.
So involving others, but also getting others to hold me to account. is really impactful. And also just knowing who I want to be working with. Like I've got an aspiration to have a co-founder at some point in time, right? For this to be a business of at least two people.
Are you putting
And
the
that,
call
that
out right now?
yeah, I am. So I work with
Hey.
a bunch of associates, and I want to be working with somebody who's got like some of my people skills for sure, but who has an incredible amount of actual discipline and
Hmm.
focus and 100%, because that would be a great partnership.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that so I just think this is smart. This is how we use strengths. And this is what we all coach people on of how do you work smarter? How do you use your strengths to get you to accomplish your goals or overcome your obstacles or just be smarter about the things that you do? And this is one of the ways, right? Like we all do the four domains, but some of them, if we don't have very much of one thing,
Mm.
we have to kind of figure out workarounds. How do I get myself over that hump? I'm curious.
And I think just worth pausing on that because I think sometimes not doing that can really ruin your life. It can really stop you doing what it is you want to do. If you
Say
don't have
more.
that, if like in the past, for example, I wanted to do a podcast, but I couldn't find that complementary partner who wanted to do the scheduling, who wanted to do the writing, who wanted to do all those things that need to be done. I knew I'd be great at this stuff, right? But I kept finding people who were similar to me. So we'd have great fun, it'd be high energy, but all those things that need to be done, I couldn't find that person. And I can look back. I think we can all look back, right, on ideas we had, but we didn't execute on,
Hmm.
right? And it frustrates us. So I think it's a really important point to really be thinking about who are those people who not necessarily I like the most, and we have just the best fun, but who complement me from a strengths perspective.
Yeah. And finding the right podcast co-host, Mark. I
Yeah,
sympathize. It's
yeah.
so hard, so hard. So
So hard. And also, Mark, you may not know that when Bill and I started our podcast, we called it the Strengths Dumpster Fire because we are very similar. And luckily, Bill has just hired people to do those other things that we don't want to do.
I am a who not how convert,
Yes.
right? I absolutely do, and Mark echoing part of that. Sarah is by far and away the best co-host I can imagine, and
Mm,
we separated our job duties pretty strategically.
mm,
I don't listen to podcasts. She does. So she did all the podcast research side. I'm an ex CIO, so I had a lot of tech in my,
mm,
so I was happy to find how do we do the tech ends and do this. And she
mm,
was very clear. I don't want to do these things. And I was very clear. I don't want to do some of these things. And we doled some of those, we had to dole out and take care of. So I hear that portion of it. And Mark, I just am here to tell you, I think you'd have an amazing podcast with the right host because
mm.
the magic for us happened when we started doing it together and realizing we can separate those duties, but what's really important is when you come together with the right person. And
Yeah.
I'm really fortunate. I feel that Sarah and I found that together, and we're finding our rhythm, and we're getting much better at getting people on and doing what we do.
Mhm.
And we could only do it because Bill was the one who was motivated to get it done. And I just sort of hitched my wagon to his end. Thank goodness I did because I just can't go a day without somebody telling me what a good voice Bill has. But in all
Happened today.
seriousness, I do want to come back to
Yes.
something.
Go to our dumpster
Mark, you
fire.
made a very bold statement. You said, I'm paraphrasing poorly, I'm sure, but you said something along the lines of like, if we don't focus on our strengths in the right way, it can ruin our life, which is a very bold statement. However, I do think it is true. And it reminded me of something you also said earlier. I was thinking about how people need more in their life than just their careers. And this is something I think about all the time. And I'm thinking about like, I think there are a lot of people in the world, but for sure in the US, who are one track mind. They are focused on their careers. And I think maybe their families, but I think a lot of people don't have hobbies. I think they spend their extra time down the like social media doom scroll. They're just doing what they need to do. and they feel a little empty or unfulfilled. And I think that because we need to open our mind up to what else is out there. And I think that if we went down this line long enough, we could also look at some of the strengths. Like, yes, it is easy for me. Say you didn't have any influencing themes. So that kind of thing of like going out and meeting people or joining a new gym, it could be harder, right? You're like, oh, I'm less comfortable in it. And so I think that I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say, but I just think that there's something there for people. I think people do need something beyond family and work. And I think your strengths can, after a lifetime of doing these things, sort of limit you or what you think you can do because of what's comfortable. And there has to be these strategic ways of figuring out, how do I get myself out of my comfort zone to explore what else life has out there for me?
I think I agree mostly. The only exception I'd say is when you are living your dream job, there really isn't much of a need for that. Having that extra side thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that
Yeah.
is your thing, but for how many people have that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not many.
Yeah.
No.
So for the most part, you're right, because I'm not being 100% fulfilled at work. Where else can I, maybe it's acting that will bring out my woo, maybe it's whatever that will satisfy this strength, etc. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to push back on this because, and I don't know that this is true for everyone, but I'm just curious. This is
Mm.
such a fun thought experiment. I love my job. I feel like I am one of the lucky ones. Maybe it's because I was a career coach and so I really knew what I wanted to do. What I get to do in this business, I love it. Alls I want is to do more of it. And I'm just niching down even more
Mm.
every year about what I love. However, I feel like the more I do my business that I love, the more other things I'm willing to do outside of my business that I love. And it's like not big things, but like I love reading books. I was just at my book club last night. That is a big part of my life, is reading books and talking to people about books and listening to content about books and getting together with other people and talking about books. It's a big part of my life. And I feel like I haven't always had that. But the more joy I find in my work, the more I'm open to joy in other parts of my life. And I'm just like, it's almost addicting. Like I can't get enough. Like I want to be in situations where I get to do things. And I think like we made a goal in our family to go to every national park. And that was so great. And I can just keep thinking, I want to do another one of those. Like, when can we do it? It has nothing to do with my work. But it's just like once I've experienced this wonderful joy of what my work is, I'm hungry for it in other arenas of my life.
Cool.
Silence.
Yeah.
Good
No,
podcast
no,
content.
wow. I echo a bit where you're at here, Sarah. I love what I do and I love doing it, but it does open the door and make me want to find other, for instance, this podcast, right? We've talked about this previously, but this was not something I jumped into right away. It was on my board for almost 2 years, and I had to find the right person to engage me to do it, right? But as I do more of the coaching and more of that niche componentry that you talk about, my business manager's trying to get me to narrow down as much as possible as well. It opens up my door for doing other fun things. And I hear what you're saying in that way. And Mark, when you hit on your level of when you're living your best life, and it is work as well, that is all componentry. I have a very good friend who has absolutely done that. And I see that point as well. That is his world. Now, he's going to Costa Rica in 3 days, or I'm sorry, for most of January, and taking 4 friends with him because it turned into a very lucrative financial end for him, which was fantastic. And I get that part too, but I think that's opening up. I don't think he would ever go to Costa Rica if he didn't have that door open for him and he got through there. So I love that you're hitting on that, Mark. And Sarah, I absolutely love that you're expanding in those ways as well. I hear that. Mark, when you mentioned the festival of art and all of the city that crops up and all of that, I am 30 minutes away from Burning Man every
Oh
year.
wow.
So yeah, we are the launch pad for Burning Man, which is just right down the road out in the desert here. So I was thinking you were going to talk about Burning Man for a second, and I went, oh gosh, so
One of those places I've never quite made it to, but it's always been on my bucket list.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna jump the pond and go and want to
Yeah.
go, you got a spot here. We'll put you up. We'll make sure
Ah.
you're safe and dry here before you head over. So
Cheers, man.
we were talking about how if you're not living in it, it can really feel bad and get in your way. And this was the Strengths dumpster fire when we started this, Mark. So can you touch on for a moment when you feel some of your themes get in your way? We know that woo and empathy were phenomenal at doing some book writing, right? We know that positivity and communication have helped you with the people, and look at the Strengths Explorer and do some of the things you've done. When do you think some of your themes trip you up? What does that look like for you?
Well, I think there's always, with the training that myself and Sarah have had for sure, like we're really acutely aware of our raw talents. So when the same strength as, the balcony in the basement, when the same strength kind of trips you up. So for example, sometimes I always make the point about the raw side of my woo and communication. I might talk too much, or ideation. Although it's number 10, I think it's higher than number 10 actually. But because I love it so much, I can kind of get. There might come a point where a stakeholder may say to me, Mark, I think we've got enough ideas to go with. I don't think we need any more, because it just brings me so much joy, right? To keep no, but we could do this and we could do that. So I think they're probably and also I think, to be honest, the biggest one for me is empathy, because and I've seen it a lot in the people that I coach. The downside of empathy can be that we feel things so bloody much.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we care.
So
yeah.
I definitely do, and that can be really tough if like silly examples, like if I guess negative feedback, or if I've developed a good relationship with a client and we've moved on, but then now they don't return my calls, or we've had 3 pitch conversations and then they won't return an email to say they don't want a fourth one. And that's business, that's life. But I can find it quite hard. And I guess my way out of that, I have to pick up a phone to a good buddy. Sarah's been one of those people sometimes, and I can just, to be honest, F and blind and curse and just let it out, and be heard. And then hear somebody say something very rational, like, that's kind of business, right? And you're not as high on their priority list because of X, Y, and Z. So I think reaching out, because of my high empathy, to others to help bring me to where I need to be is definitely very helpful.
Yeah, so powerful. That. Yeah, powerful to hear you say it, Mark, because it's number 6 for me. And in both instances, right, there are times I'm like, I can't care more than my client does. If they aren't doing the work and the homework and they aren't doing more, and I'm still pushing, and I'm feeling, I know I can get, I know it, we can do it. That's where it trips me up. And I actually tracked down a client who had ghosted me for about 2 months and just literally went to an event that I knew they were at. I did that 2 nights ago just to run into them and say, hey, what? And they were like, hey, we just had a downturn at this, but I need you all of Q1. Like you said, it's business, right? I was taking it as it's me, right? You're pushing me away, and that isn't the case.
But I don't know if mainly your listeners are other strengths coaches, or if they're people in companies. I'm not quite sure. But
strengths enthusiasts, so all of the above, yes.
Okay, so but I would definitely say that community is everything. If you are independent or a part of a small team, you have to have, like, whether you're as high empathy as me or not, you've got to have. It's really important to have those close buddies, pals, connections, where you can pick up the phone and go, this is what's going on. Like, this is how I'm feeling. Can you help me with this? The same if you're in a company, right? And you've got a senior stakeholder you're really having problems with, to be able to speak to a colleague and not gossip, but just I need to get this off my chest. I need you
Yeah.
to listen, right? And then I can begin to be rational. I think that's so important.
Yeah.
And one of the things I just want to say out loud, because I think it is so important and it plays on this idea that we need community, is no one should be suffering alone.
Mm,
You know, we say, like what you're talking about, if you're a business of one and you're struggling, you need to find the community, whether it's other coaches or people in your community or your family. You have to find someone. I mean, I say this to new moms out there because that can be isolating.
mm,
When you are in a season of suffering, do not do it alone. That's where it gets scary and dangerous because we are not meant to be alone. We are not meant to traverse through those hard things alone. Whether you have woo, communication, empathy, or you are all, strategic, ideation, futuristic, you're all discipline, focus, consistency. It does not matter what your strengths makeup is. You should not suffer alone. I don't care if you are the most introverted person in the world, you still need people, you still need community, and you must find your people that can support you, that you can talk to, that you can lean on. And if you don't have those, then I implore you to find that some way, somehow, because it is the darkest when we are alone. Sorry for Pastor Sarah to just get on the train.
Sarah's word count was down earlier, so she's running
funny,
it up, right?
the funny thing is, I did my training with Sarah. We became quite good buddies. There were other people like Angela and people on the training, Katie, and so these are now people who are my friends. So I have to go. "Arr!" I'm really, and then I'll be like 6 hours ahead. I'll have to bloody schedule this meeting. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to be feeling in 6 hours, or if they'll take it, or if it'll be 3 days before we speak.
Right.
So be aware of time differences as well.
Yeah,
Yes, very
when
much
you
so.
start
Yeah.
make friends across the pond,
No,
the
that's
time
a bad
differences
idea.
are real.
Yeah. Well, and Sarah,
Yeah.
regarding what you just hit on, right, having people in your life, I don't know if I've mentioned this previously on the podcast, but you need to be that person for other people as well. And from a coaching point of view, I'm bringing that up because what I do, I have a group of guys that meet regularly, and we aren't. It's a circle of trust. It's meant that we hold space for each other. And it's, I've hosted it for different groups over time. I do it with men, particularly because I don't understand women. No, that's not true. But we do it with men because men seem to really not want to share. They don't want to open up, but they really need that space. So I have a monthly group of guys that we aren't talking football and sports and other goods. We are literally in a circle, holding space for each other to talk about all of it: business, family, children, my wants, my needs, where I've fallen down, and holding that space for each other so that we can be there. And Sarah, it means so much. I've had some of these go for years where the guys are all, we need to do this, and we need it. So I echo what you're saying. Find that for yourself, or be that for other people.
Yeah.
If you're in the coaching vein, that can be a little easier to do on the be it for other people, because you get it out of that too. I've learned, and I get to open and share in that circle too. And it means the world to me to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I heard the emotion in your voice, Bill, as you described that, and I'd really encourage you to talk more about that in future shows, because loneliness for men is a really big deal now.
Yeah.
Massive amount of writing going on about it. So I have so much fun when I'm with my guy buddies, because we're fairly emotionally mature where we don't need to talk about soccer or whatever. But if you can spread the word and get other guys doing that, Bill, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, and we love it. I also have an external group of guys and their wives and that I do. We all know how fortunate we are that we have each other in our lives. We say it all the time. We can talk about anything. And it's a very tight knit group. It doesn't change. I guess there's not, new people don't show up and some don't go away. It's been this core 5 that have been my friends forever. One of them's coming up on the show. He's also a client, but he's been a friend forever. So I have that on the outside, but being able to do this on the inside, you're right, Mark. I should talk about it more and get at least, and I facilitated other people being able to do it too, to have a circle of trust and do it for groups of them. So something maybe we'll touch on more later, Sarah, and we'll have something about it. But if you're interested in what that looks like and how that plays for me, just contact me. All of my information is in the show notes on our bumpers, and happy to break that down.
Absolutely. I love that we're sharing this. This is deep. This is the good stuff. This is where we need to be. But I am going to steer us in a different direction. So, Mark, I sent you probably 2 questions. Now I'm questioning myself.
Sent me a whole page of questions.
Spicy Sarah stepping in.
Spicy Sarah can admit when she's made a mistake. And I sent Mark Edwards the prep info twice, once a long time ago when I booked him on the show, and then another one today. And so we always have this sort of fun question we prep people with. And I just pulled up the one I sent for you today, not knowing if it's the same one I sent for you a long time ago. So I don't know if you were prepped for it, but here we go. Wild West, get on the train. Okay, Mark, are you ready? You look confused. You look scared.
Yes, I'm really ready.
Please hold on. You are stranded on a deserted island with only a coconut, a stick, and your top 10 strengths. How do you survive?
I'd die and I wouldn't survive.
He's out.
He said, done. You just told me not to be alone. Why are you putting me on a deserted island, lady?
I would not survive. Some people, they say, why didn't you do a Vipassana, Mark? I think a Vipassana, a silent retreat would be great for you. I think you'd really connect with yourself. I think it would just be a space. And I'm like, no. No. I mean, maybe for a day. No, it's 10 days, Mark. Well, no. So I would shrivel up and die. That's the answer to that. But I did prepare some myths or those sort of things that might be helpful for me to run through, or my own steer on the world and the use of strengths, if that would be useful to share some of these.
I don't know, because I don't know what you have in front of you. So let's just.
I think Sarah. I think Sarah. The elegant way to respond to that is, yes, Mark. That sounds fascinating. We'd love to hear your preparation, your thoughts.
This is not the elegant show, okay?
Right,
More of a hillbilly than an elegant, but sure. Yes, Mark, please enlighten us.
With that accent, Mark, you say anything you want, right? You just bring it. Yeah. Hit me with a myth.
Okay. Here are some thoughts, right?
Okay.
Sometimes you can get in the way of your own strengths. So I look at people, for example, like Susan Cain, right? You say, I'm an introvert, and here's me being an introvert, and here's everything you need to do being an introvert. Here's me on the TEDx stage talking about being an introvert, blah, blah, blah. And I'm kind of I've got these extroverted strengths in terms of things like communication and will, and I can't get there. I can now, but it's taken me a long, long time. So sometimes things aren't as simple as what strengths you have. Sometimes it's the inner saboteur that might be preventing you from exhibiting those strengths. And I think there's sometimes these subtleties, that people don't really explore and go into. Like for a long, long time, I wasn't able to go on video at all with LinkedIn because it was me. It was Mark Edwards. It was the Strengths Explorer. Whereas in the past, if I was representing, BP or London Business School or these like famous brands that I've been with in the past, it would feel easier because it's not me. So that would have been a great thing for a coach at the time to dissect with me, right? So really pay attention when you're coaching to what internal saboteurs might be taking place that are stopping the person being who they really are. Another one is sometimes strengths aren't really so apparent, or your strengths profile may say you're not suited to X. And I listened recently to Adam Grant, the really well-known psychologist in America, and he was being asked a question about his presenting, and he's given a couple of TEDx talks that have been seen by millions and millions. And he said, well, have you always been a great presenter? And he's like, no, I thought I was a shocking presenter, right? And then they asked, well, what led you to do a TEDx? And he said, well, my students, My students are saying, well, Adam, you're doing so much interesting stuff. I think more people would love to hear about that. And so even though he never saw a strength of his as being presenting, because of the kind of pressure, he did it. And now you could say he's one of the world's most eloquent presenter on his own podcast, his TEDx talks, etc. I also say, like, leave room for intuition. So I will sometimes just because I'm also very visual, just start off a call with just looking at the person, right, and saying, well, what should we talk about? And I'm looking out for the cues of who they really are beyond their strengths profile. And in one or two situations, I haven't talked about strengths at all, because that person has actually just needed to cry, or has just needed to vent, or has just needed something that if I hadn't have just stopped and looked at them and allowed my mind to go blank for a period, it wouldn't really have been practical. And I also think we as coaches or anybody of influence can actually change a person by seeing them differently, by looking for the best of them. And, I worked with these 18 female leaders across 5 countries, and I used a combination of coaching and photography to elicit and anchor their strengths in them. And I would be I'd be on a photo shoot with them, and I'd be saying to them things like, do you see your elegance at play here? Do you see your love? Do you see your nurturing? Do you see? And I'd be kind of implanting thoughts in them and new beliefs. And partly it would be because of this maybe needs a longer explanation, but partly because of what I've heard from their community in terms of what this person's strengths are. But sometimes, I'll actually give them the evidence. I'll show them a photograph and I'll say, well, that's what I see. Don't you see that? And with most of those women, it changed the trajectory of their lives in some way, because they saw themselves differently. So I think sometimes, I've kind of made up a bit of this quote whereby if you see a strength in others, you'll be loved. But if you see a strength in others they didn't even know they had, you'll be remembered forever.
Wow.
Because actually
yeah.
what we observe changes. And I say this in my leadership development, if you even just see somebody in a different way, they will start to change without you doing anything. Because then they'll live into that, and you'll live into that new belief.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a.
Well, and I hear so much of your empathy through all of this. It's just you are living through really seeing people, really listening, really catching the vibes off of people. That's so much of that empathy, and I think positivity, right? Like I always describe positivity as a vibe. And I think like people either have it or they don't, and you clearly have it, and you can come to people and make them feel better because you're actually looking at them and you're curious and you're seeing them, and everything that you've just said, all those different components kind of highlight your talent in doing that.
Yeah. And that relator in there too, Mark. I'm hearing that. I got to have that moment with people, and showing it, going deeper with people in that relator kind of way means the world to them and you, right? As part of, again, like Sarah would say, I'm poorly paraphrasing you, but because you say it so well, but having that depth with them means so much for them when they feel it and they know it from you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, Mark, we have absolutely loved having you with us today. Thank you so much for coming in from across the pond. And there were some voices behind you for a little bit there. You're actually you took time out in a hotel lobby to do this. Is that correct?
That is right. Yes, I'm in between places, but yeah. Hope it wasn't too distracting.
No, not at all. I'm giving you kudos for finding a good spot and saying, you know what, I want to do this. I am all in. Let's go. So,
100%.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. The video on me threw you for a second there. I decided it wasn't worth plugging in my camera, and so the battery died on it once or twice. That's why Sarah was like, just go. It's okay. It's just Bill.
I thought he ran away to throw up, if I'm being honest.
Having a weird day. Having a weird day, Mark. So,
Bill's having a weird day, guys. I didn't know.
Spicy.
Did his camera die or is he throwing up? No one knows.
No.
But just keep talking.
Actually, there it goes again. I plugged it in. But it's mad.
The YouTube watchers are really getting a ride today. But Mark, we loved having you on. Thank you for the time. Where can people find us? Give us your website, your email, socials. Tell people where they can find you.
So far at the moment on LinkedIn, just look for my name, Mark Julian Edwards, and my website is thestrengthsexplorer.com.
Okay.
So they're probably the best two ways.
Awesome.
If they want to see my quirky, weird photography work, they can look for my same name on Instagram. But it has nothing to do with my day job.
Nice.
I just want to also say that you guys are doing a great job. You know, you've got a really nice chemistry together. You're clearly complementary strength partners. That's great to see. I think, we're in this edutainment kind of world. And I think if you were just boring and you were going through the strengths one by one, that's all you ever talked about, yawn. But you bring it to life with such humor, sensitivity, and passion and kind of love for one another that it's really, really great. So I wish you all the very best with it.
No, thank you.
Thank you for
that.
I love compliments, so I really appreciate that.
Look at Sarah light up. Sarah lights up with those compliments come, Mark. You know it. You found it.
Yeah.
So
I've just stopped denying it. I've just leaned into it, okay? When I ask for feedback, I'm searching for compliments, okay? That's what I'm looking for. Just give it to us. Well, Mark, you're an exceptional coach. You're doing incredible things in the world. I love to see all of the work you're doing with teams and with your photography, and you just always have fun, creative ideas. So I'm happy to be in your corner. We appreciate your time today here on Strengths on Fire.
Yeah.
All right, Bill.
All right. Let's do it, Sarah. So, Mark, thanks again. And we will talk to all of you on the next podcast. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Ciao.
Thank you for joining us on Strengths on Fire. If today's conversation sparked something in you, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. We're here bringing you fresh insights to fuel your growth and ignite your potential. Remember, your strengths are powerful, so let's keep the fire burning.
And if you're looking to transform your organization through strengths-based strategies and coaching, reach out to Sarah Collins, founder of Collins Collective, or Bill Dipple, founder of Bill Dipple Strengths Coaching. Connect with Sarah at wearecollinsco.com. Follow her on Instagram at SarahCoachCollins or email her at sarah@wearecollinsco.com, SARAH. You can reach Bill at BillDipple.com, Bill, DIPPEL.com, or on Instagram at BillDippleCoach, or email him at bill@BillDipple.com.
Please note the opinions, views, and interpretations of CliftonStrengths expressed in this podcast are solely those of the hosts and the guests. They have not been approved, sanctioned, or endorsed by Gallup in any way.
Until next time, keep your strengths on fire and let's light up what's possible together. Bye, Bill.
Bye, Sarah.